Okay, now that we've introduced ourselves, it's great to know everybody. Now let's get back to the slides, and I'll talk now about the syllabus for the course. So the syllabus for the course typically, as I've said before, requires you to do two broad kinds of activities. The first kind of broad activity that I'm asking you to do is to write programs. It's one of the primary goals of the course, and in a number of ways. One is, the first piece is 30%, which is programming assignments, and those assignments start as small assignments, and there are also larger pieces that in which I ask you to do something interesting and exciting that is in tune with the kind of research you anticipate doing through your time here at CIAT. At the end of the term, I will ask also for you to deliver a final programming project. That is to say, I want you to deliver a program that runs and does something interesting, and again, generally speaking, about your research, although it does not have to be. The other piece of the assignment of the course evaluation is reading and writing assignments. These are typically a little bit larger in scope than the little programming assignments. What I will do there is, I will assign a number of readings throughout the term, and I will ask you in these reading writing assignments to reflect on what you've read on the history of interactive computing. At the end of the term, I will also ask for a final essay about one or the other of the readings. I ask one or two or three questions about two or three of the individual readings, and you get to pick one and write me an essay about what you've read and what you understand of the material. I'm going to focus just a little bit more on the programming assignments for a moment. A programming assignment comes in two flavors. The first, which will be issued very shortly, is a collection of small programs in which you write sometimes a tiny little piece of code and working up to bigger and bigger pieces of code. These assignments are primarily aimed at beginners, and for those of you who have some computing experience, they might seem a little bit simple. But the goal there is to first get used to the processing system and also to do something interesting with each of these small fragments. I want you to submit a zip file of each of those parts as separate programs, not put it all together in a big compendium assignment piece. Those small assignments typically have a very limited specification, and that is intentional so that it gives you the opportunity to interpret that in a way that is interesting for the viewer, the marker, and your colleagues to look at, to understand, to see, and to interact with, as the case may be. The other major piece of the programming assignments are their larger project assignments. These are typically, there's going to be two or three of these, and typically I ask you to submit one large program that does something interesting and fits the mandate of what the assignment asks for, say a drawing tool or a little visualization system or something. And I would expect in those that significant creativity is exhibited by the work that you do. As an example of what I mean by significant creativity, this is a final project that started as one of the project assignments in a previous offering of IAT806. This is a system called Illustrator by a colleague of yours named Amir Aziz Gahari. And what he started with was to build a drawing tool that allowed you to very, very slowly move your mouse, and the system would draw lines according to the previous pathway of where the mouse had been. And so it didn't start off looking like what you see here. This is a snapshot of the drawing tool. But over the months he worked on it throughout the term, he was able to actually generate this drawing in about at the end of the October, or in early November, if I recall correctly. So he just worked and worked and worked on this thing. And he turned the second project into a final project and continued to work on it. Here's another screenshot from this Illustrator tool. This thing shows a further refinement that he did after the term was over, in which you do the drawing in the same way, but the computer system automatically does the radial symmetry of reflecting and rotating the basic figure of each one of those leaves, rotating a single leaf around the entire circumference of the circle. So that gives a little bit of an illustration of the kind of work that people have been able to do within this course. And I hope that you will be able to do interesting and exciting stuff as well. Of course, Amir's interest was in doing interactive art. If your interest is in something different, of course, your project will be about that different and exciting thing. So let's now move on to the next step in the lecture series.